Hey YouTube. Well, I'm here to talk about the assassination of Gianni Versace. This is part 7. There are only 8 parts, so next week is the last one. All right, so it opens up with they're in Milan. Donatella, these are the Versace family. Donatella and Gianni Versace are arguing because she's supposed to be sketching on this project, right? He's grooming her to take over this business. There's some physical things that going on with Versace that we're going to find out about in this episode. Okay, so she sketches out a design, and then she throws her design in the trash. She doesn't trust her design. She takes an idea to him for him to design a dress. His argument is, don't you trust your designs? I want you to design the dress. You're going to take over this company. You are my legacy. She just happens to be his sister. So she's not even confident in her ability to design. I mean, when you're from a family like that, those are the big shoes to step in, right? So he's trying to help her build her confidence. Be confident. If you're going to be just my assistant, then go get me some coffee. That kind of thing. Family argument. You know, the Italians, they get vocal. I'll get that in the inbox. Okay. Versace has to having people repeat things and ask them why are they whispering, and everyone is talking at a normal volume. So we know something's wrong with him. Right. We already know that he's HIV/AIDS, and that he had been sick from that at one point. So I don't know if this is a different sickness or not, but we'll get to that by the end of this episode. Okay? Next, they cut to Andrew. Andrew was working in a little pharmacy there near San Diego. He's a daydreamer. He's already a liar, you know. All this stuff takes place over the course of a couple of years. From when we meet him to the time that he is dead, it's only a couple of years, right? So this, he's working in this pharmacy. He's trying to, I don't know. He daydreams a lot. He's obsessed with these Vogue magazines. When he should be working, he's looking at Vogue, daydreaming. And they show us the inside of the page. He is admiring Gianni Versace. So they're establishing that he already had an obsession with Versace going back before he ever came into contact with him, for whatever brief moment that was. Okay. At home, he comes home, you know, his mother's half crazy. That apartment is depressing, you know. They got that LA type architecture, which I hate. It's like LA was created in the 50s, right? So everything is mid-century modern. Looks like hotel rooms. Apparently the same thing goes on in San Diego. So they're in this plain little apartment. I think the actual story said it was some kind of a condo she lived in. But anyway, no pictures on the wall. It's a very depressing place. He comes home, goes to the freezer to get him some ice cream after work. The ice cream that she has is a great big old tub of that $1.99 stuff. So he slams it on the ground. How dare you? I don't eat that garbage. Where's the Haagen-Dazs? So his mother says, it tastes the same as Haagen-Dazs. Obviously, he don't agree with that. He wants the very best. Next time, get Haagen-Dazs. So their relationship is, she's not dominant. It's almost like they're in a not a mother and daughter relationship. Because he kind of is the male of the house, even though she's a single mother kind of thing. Last week, they showed her giving him a bath and sponge bathing him and all that. So there's weirdness going on with his mother. But the mother, she's half crazy. Okay. Now, him and Jeff are actually friends. I didn't have a clear picture of them being very good friends. I got a picture of Andrew being a loner. But they really are friends. He said, I love you, buddy, and all this kind of stuff. When everything was normal. Before all this stuff got out of whack. And I believe that meth might have had a part in igniting it. And all the rejection all come to a head. But him and Jeff are very good friends. They go out They go out to a club. Um, at the end of the night, Andrew had too much to drink, sort of, but he'd run out of money. His wallet is empty. Some older guy in the bar sees that he doesn't have money to pay for his drink. Andrew tells the guy, he knows them, I'll pay you next week or whatever. He said, you can make, and so the old guy said, you can make up a lot of stories, but you can't lie about how much money's in your wallet. And he slides him his phone number. So this is his foray into prostitution, or at least the offer. They don't show us what happens between them, or Andrew ever actually used the number, but the man offered him money. It might have set something off in his mind, because the next thing we see is Andrew showing up at an escort service run by this woman. She runs an escort service, right? She runs boys. She gets in there, shoots him all through the rigmarole where he got to pull his pants down, show his penis and all this, and then tells him, my customers don't want Asians. So here's where the racial element comes to this. And we don't know how deep that goes with him. Is he overcompensating because he is Filipino? But when she asked him what he is, he says he's Filipino. And he said, well, I can pretend to be Portuguese. He says, nope. White men like Asian women, but gay men don't call for Asians. That had to sting a little bit, because all of the horrible things we think about Andrew, he is a good-looking guy. So now he's been rejected because no one wants you, which is what he struggles with. Anyway, let me see. Okay, so the woman said, no, I can't hire you. Even though she done made him show his dick and everything. I can't do nothing with it. And she don't like his attitude. She said if they did go for Asians, they wouldn't go for ones with smart ass mouth. So she's a very hard woman. Anyway, he says, well, I'll go out and I'll get my own. And he goes about doing that. Okay. Cut back to Versace. These people love to cut back and forth. Okay. So Versace designs this beautiful dominatrix gown. He said he wants him and Donatello to work on this gown together. He's trying to build her up because he feels that he is dying, or there's a good chance that he could die. And he has to leave the company with someone. So he wants her to build her up her confidence. He says, we're going to do this dress together. Primarily, he creates the dress. He puts a buckle around her neck, a belt, tighten it up. That gives him the idea, and he makes his beautiful gown out of it. Leather, dominatrix-inspired gown, right? Okay, they go to this big, I forget what the event is, but this big event, when one photographer notices them, notice who he is, and then sees his dress, and then all the paparazzi go crazy over this dress that they've designed with straps and harnesses, and it's complicated, but it's a very beautiful dress. He shares the credit with her, right? And so everybody goes crazy for the dress, gets a lot of press and all so forth. Mixed reviews, but lots and lots of press. And then, their business manager tells them, but no sales. People are not buying the dress. And so him and Donatello get into it again. Because Donatello's telling him, let's make two dresses. This dress for the runway, a simpler dress for people to actually buy. The average woman's not going to walk around like a dominatrix. Feel me? But it works well on the runway, but it doesn't work for the average buyer. So she come up with that idea. Let's make two dresses, a simpler version for the masses. And so, you know how these temperamental artists, this is so typical. These temperamental artists go, oh, what do you want me to do? And he goes out and pulls out scissors. Should I cut the top off? Cut the bottom? What do you want me to cut? I'll just cut it all. And sure enough, he cuts all the beautiful strapping, the harness thing off of the dress. All but attitude. He doesn't like doing this. I mean, he created something beautiful. But it seems like Donatello might have a better business mind. For sales, for actual sales, they need to have a simpler dress. So they fell out again. And in the middle of that, he realizes he can't hear anything. And he starts crying. They have a moment. Of course, they make up their brother and sister. Let me see what happens. Okay, so the thing is, they cut right there where he can't hear. Then we switched over to Andrew. Andrew meets David in this fancy. Okay, so Andrew is taking his girlfriend. He's got one good friend. It's like he's got Jeff and he's got this girl, this blonde girl, who has been with them since, I don't know, high school or that 1 year he did in college. Anyway, he's taking her out for her birthday, right? They're at this fancy hotel in San Francisco. He spots David at the bar by himself, looking kind of lonely and sad. And he invites him over. But when David goes over there, now he's walking on a table of rich people because they're all dressed up. They're having a celebration in this fancy hotel. He goes back to Andrew's room. I guess they're going to, get together. It's a beautiful suite kind of thing, And they have sex. So they have this one great night. Right? This is where Andrew forms his obsession. While they're there, this guy, Lincon. And I skipped all about Lincon, didn't I? Okay, so I got to go back a little bit. Andrew, after he decided to be a whore, an escort, he does research on these men, right? And he does research on Norman and two other gay men. I think his sights were set on Norman. He circled Norman's face in this society page, whatever. They know they're gay. He goes to the opera and then talks up this opera because he studied it. I mean, he looked it up and found out about it so he could relate to Norman. So his plan is to go there and get Norman, right? He goes there. Norman's with two of his friends. That one real stippy one who cannot stand Andrew, the red hair, she's there. And I say she because she's really kind of a catty girl, but she sees right through this hustler. She know I'm taking advantage of her friend, right? And the other man is another wealthy man. He actually lives there in San Diego. So Andrew went there for Norman, but all three of them ended up having dinner together. And at the dinner, Norman announces that he lives in Phoenix, right? And so Andrew immediately switches from Norman to this other guy, and the other guy's name is Lincon. He said, "I'll stay." And so Lincon comes into the room when they're by themselves. He says $100 a night. And Andrew, the arrogance, how in the hell you just met this man? He tells him, "No, but here's what I will do for you. I want a weekly allowance and some of his demands, whatever. He wants to be, you'll have my full attention." So he wants to be a kept boy. The man goes for it, moves him into his house, right? So that's when he goes over to San Francisco on this little trip, and he meets this other guy. He gets obsessed with him. Well, the man, Lincon, calls him from San Diego, calls to San Francisco and says, "I know what you're doing. I have the record. I'm getting the feed from the money you're spending. You up there spending my money on some other man." So he tells him basically over the phone, that's it. It's over. I assume that means he canceled his cards. And he goes out, the guy Lincon, and starts looking around for something else, right? Goes to this bar and he meets this low-life, rough trade in this bar, right? I don't know why these people want hard people who, this man is not even paying no attention to this man. He seems to be, he is challenged by, he wants this piece of trade that he meets in the bar, right? He brings the child home to his fancy house where Andrew is not home yet. Andrew's in San Francisco still. All right, so he makes a move at the man. I don't know why would a guy be hanging around a gay bar all the time? He says he sees him there in the bar all the time. Go home with the man. Then when the man make a pass at him, he takes some kind of statue or something and beats his brains in. leaves him a bloody pulp. He has murdered this man, Lincon. And Andrew walks in as he's murdered. So this is where the idea perhaps came from, murder. Maybe this is the connection. This is part of the snap. He sees him beat that man to death. And the guy hears him coming in the house. He goes and confronts him, and he said, "You better run." Anyway, now this man is laying dead. So we had one murder in this episode. This is the good friend of Norman's. So Norman is mourning his friend, and Andrew immediately switches over back to Norman now. And then he convinces Norman to move from Phoenix to San Diego. Listen, I don't know what the attraction of Andrew Cunanan is. For me, $30, $40, I can see that. Anything past that, I don't see it. But anyway, he's being charming, or at least he's been the most charming that we've seen him so far, although we know it's all bullshit, right? Okay, so he switches over to this other guy, Norman. That's how they got together. Okay, so now comes the time. So I guess Andrew, I don't know if he was living with that other guy, Lincon, or Lincon was just keeping him. Maybe he was spreading his time because he still has residence with his mother. So the next thing we see is he goes to his mother's house to start packing his stuff. He says he's met Versace. Versace's about to take him all over the world. They're going to this city and Paris and London and Paris, everywhere. And the mother is under the impression that she'll go with them, right? Remember, the mother's not, she's kind of screwy. He is adamant that you're not going with me. No, you can't go. So she's not a domineering mother. That wouldn't be the right word for her. Because he tends to dominate her more or run things around the house. Anyway, she wants to go, and she said, "No, you can't leave me here by myself. No, I can't stay here by myself." And so she starts throwing his stuff on the floor. He pushes this mother and fractures her arm. So they go to the hospital. They have to tell the doctor the arm is fractured. How did this happen? Oh, my son. It was an accident. My son loves me. He took me here. He brought me here. All that, right? Okay. So she's clear now that she's not going. Donatella. We move back to Donatella. She calls the whole staff in Milan. They got a beautiful workspace in Milan where they design these dresses and things. All the staff, maybe 20, 25, 30 people, and tells them that Versace has got a rare form of ear cancer. Now, we know he had AIDS, but I don't know if his cancer is some kind of connected with this ear thing, because he recovers from the AIDS. He is around long enough for that. All this happens at the same time now. But he's taken off time and he's moved to Florida. She tells him that she's going to be running the operations from this point on until he gets better. Right? So I guess what he beat was ear cancer. People with HIV, you have a depleted immune system, so you're susceptible to other diseases. So apparently, it's the first time I ever heard of this. I've heard of eye cancers, mouth cancers, lips, tongue. I've heard people be attacked everywhere. I've never heard it in the ears before. So this is something new for me. But he's going to Florida, right? Of course, everything's going to climax very quickly now. Okay, Norman. Okay, so now Andrew then convinced his man, Norman, to move to San Diego with him. That's a lot of power for a hooker. So they moved into that big, beautiful place together. Now, I've seen some of the real footage, and apparently that big house they're in, that's not one house. It's some kind of a condo or duplex, something like that. Anyway, it's a gorgeous place. They move in there together, and Andrew is promising he's going to decorate it to make a beautiful home for him and all this kind of stuff. Andrew moves in the house with him. So they moved in there together. Okay, and I believe that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So this dude Andrew, what a mind he can remember all of this information. So he has an intelligence, a capacity to manage tremendous amounts of information. When he was in that escort lady, when he was in her office, she told him, pick out a book and tell me something about it. He picked out one book and said, this is the only one I haven't read. Now that's that's Hollywood there. That's an exaggeration. Or how would he have read all the books that she has? But the point is, he was well read. He could lie so well because he knew so much information. So there was potential here. So it's just a sad all the way around story. Instead of being somebody, I guess at some point he came to a conclusion he'll just kill somebody who is already famous, and that'll make him famous. What difference does it make? You're not here. You're a coward. You killed yourself. Anyway, so at least this story here wasn't as dark as some of the others. These last two have been much better of telling the story. If we get nothing else, we are really going to know the story of Andrew Cunanan. See you next week for the last episode, or the last part 8. Later.